In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to shallow this shaft naturally in the downswing. So like you see those top players on TV, how they just effortlessly shallow the shaft. And I can tell you one thing, they're not thinking about anything to shallow that shaft. It's exactly what we're going to get into. So I'm Jonathan Chan with JChownGolf. Let's find out how we're going to shallow this shaft naturally. So when we see the top players transition into their downswing, you'll always see that shaft shallowing and it look extremely effortless when they're doing it. It's not like they're trying to really think of, let's say, their right arm getting in front of their body, their elbow going in front, their left forearm really rotating to shallow that shaft. Of course, those moves do technically get that shaft to shallow, but are they thinking that? No. What they're doing, they're getting up to the top of their backswing. They're leaving the club up. So they're leaving the club up, getting very light and limp with their hands, and they're rotating in the downswing. So you can see I'm trying to leave my hands and arms up whilst I'm turning my body there. You can see how that club has naturally just shallowed out. Naturally, my right arm has moved in front of my body, and naturally, my left forearm has rolled as well. So I've done all those shallowing moves that I need naturally without thinking about it. Let's go bring our minds to another sport here. So let's say I'm doing any sport where I'm throwing a ball. So any sport that I'm throwing a ball. What's going to happen? I'm not going to be thinking of all these movements to be able to throw this ball, am I? Not going to be thinking of any of them at all. I'm going to be generally moving my body and rotating my body through to that target I'm trying to throw to get any power in that throw. I'm not going to be here trying to throw it like that, trying to get my hands and arms in front of me to try and manipulate and get in the best position. I'm going to be generally moving my body dynamically to be able to throw that ball with a little bit more power in there. Golf swing, rotational sport, no difference in there. We need to be making sure we're getting up and we're making sure the body is leading, the hands and arms are last. If we're thinking consciously of keeping our hands and arms up while staying very limp and loose, that club is going to shallow out. So let's dive right into some feels and some kind of drills we can do to be able to achieve this movement here. Because I know a lot of you guys out there are just chronically trying to do too much in transition with their hands and arms, and that is always going to cause you to really struggle with shallowing the golf club. So our first key is to really feel nice and loose with no pressure in our hands at the top of the backswing. So really what I want to really feel here, now this can be purely imaginary or this can be with someone else you're practicing with. If you imagine here, someone is putting their hand on the golf club, on the butt end of your club at the top of your backswing. Now, what you want to do here, you want to put no pressure as you're trying to rotate in the downswing into this person's hand. If you're putting too much pressure into it, you can see how that shaft is going to steepen. But then if I'm moving and I'm having no pressure going into my left hand here or someone else's hand, see how that shaft is now shallowing out as I'm turning in the downswing there. So that could almost be a drill that you just saw me do there, guys. Get up to the top of your backswing with your trail arm. Get your club, or get your hand, put it on the butt end of your club there. And now turn your downswing whilst putting no pressure into your left hand there. And I can do the same thing kind of for my right hand. Having my right hand on the butt end of the club, now turning through, putting no pressure on that butt end of the club. I need a very light grip to be able to do this type of move. And that will also really get into that second key there of keeping the hands and arms up. You can see how I'm turning the rest of my body whilst, putting no pressure onto this. And my hands and arms are staying up nicer, aren't they? That's another key thing from there is we just need to feel and get the exaggerated reps of getting up here, leaving them up. And you can see, look at my hands. Look at my hands here. See how when I'm exaggerating, my hands are almost like coming off of the golf club. I'm almost dropping the golf club. So if I really exaggerated it, and exaggerated the feel extreme, this is what it would look like. You might have seen that drill out there before, kind of an old school type of drill, but that will really give you the visual of kind of the extreme feel of your pressure in your hands as you're coming down in the downswing. We obviously don't want to go that much to where we're dropping the golf club because we won't hit the golf ball, but that's the feeling we need to be able to shallow that club out naturally from there. So really extreme those feels, leaving those hands and arms up whilst turning. So let's hit a few balls with those feels there, feeling like I'm really leaving my hands and arms up whilst I'm turning through the golf shot. You can see I really get a good shallowing type of movement coming down from there. Now, I might not shallow it amazingly doing that, but I'll definitely be getting those feels better, and that light kind of feeling from the top will fix a hell of a lot of things as well in your golf swing too. So one other extra really good feel you can do here to really get that feel even more is if you're really struggling to combat those hands pulling down in transition. As we know, this is a chronic thing a lot of golfers do because that used to be taught, pulling those hands down in transition to be able to get the club moving from the inside. So if you're someone who's experienced that and has maybe been taught that and it's drummed into you, you could be thinking of the opposite to that move. So instead of trying to pull them down, push them backwards as you're going and getting down a downswing. Push them back more behind you, because the more we're going to do that, the more the hands and arms are going to stay. If I'm trying to push them back behind me as I'm moving down, I'm going to be again shallowing that shaft a little bit better. So instead of feeling like you're pulling it down, push it backwards. Continue to push it backwards as you're going down in transition. It'll naturally keep that club nice and up there. So again, really good feeling strike. Just if you really struggle with pulling on that shaft in transition, feel the opposite and feel like as soon as you're turning down, the hands are actually traveling more distance back. So guys, as we can see from this video, to shallow that shaft naturally is ultimately just having your hands at the top of the backswing, leaving them up there with no pressure in those hands as turning in your downswing. So it's something that's definitely easier said than done, but with those few kind of drill orientated feels we had there, let's say with one of your hands on the butt end of the club, turning in the downswing whilst leaving your hand up there, putting no pressure into the hand that's on the butt end of the club, whether that's the right or left hand, will really get the good feeling of there. You can really go from both hands to train that movement with either limb there. So that with the exaggerated feels of just feeling like you're almost dropping that club in transition. You're almost just trying to drop it behind you, really feeling those really, really loose hands in there. Again, get that club to drop. If you struggle with that, let's say if you really struggle with that, pulling down, let's keep those hands going back as we're turning down in the downswing. Those in there will really train this move quite nicely. So if you found this video helpful, make sure you click that like button, and if you want more golf instruction just like this, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell button too to be notified every time I put out a video. So guys, that's exactly how to shallow the shaft naturally in the golf swing, just like the top tour pros do. When we get the concept for this and get the practice in there, we'll be doing exactly the same.